on this edition of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher.
So we decided the best way to beat North Carolina was to take a lot of threes and make a lot of threes. That's the fastest human being I've ever seen sitting on a college bench was Allen Iverson. The guy who either I misevaluated on and probably did was John Wall. We played Georgetown when they had Mourning and Mutombo. I mean, that was like you had to take 4 Tylenols before the game.
The greatest sports moments happen in seconds, but the stories behind them are timeless. Dive into the mind of the icons who lived those moments. No filters, just authentic conversations about the moments that define careers. I'm Justin Kutcher, and this is the Just in Time podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher. I'm joined now by a guy who I broadcasted high school basketball with for years while I was at ESPN. He's the 2004 Horizon League Coach of the Year. People know him even better now as the Director of National Recruiting at ESPN. Seemingly been doing this forever because he worked with me all the way back then. Paul Biancardi. Paul, it's so good to have you. It's so good to see you. And you're wearing a Utah Ute shirt. I did not expect that.
Oh, this is my Rick Majerus, Monday with Majerus. I post something on the late, great Rick Majerus, who gave me a job at St. Louis. And I learned so much from him, Justin, in just 1 year of working with him, but knew him for about 5 years before that. So I wore my Utah shirt today. I wear something Utah or St. Louis every Monday.
I love it. You know what? We're going to talk about Rick Majerus because he was one of my favorite coaches ever.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys have a really tight relationship. Obviously, we want to talk about you as a head coach, you as an assistant coach, you as the national director of recruiting. However, I want to go back in time first and go to your playing days in college at Salem State. And your head coach was a young guy by the name of Tom Thibodeau. Like, you had Tibbs before anybody knew who Tibbs was.
Yeah, that's right.
What was a young Tibbs like?
He was great. And, you talk about storytelling all the time. And I talk to so many kids and parents about how to play college basketball. And the story that I have is pretty cool because if it wasn't for Tibbs, I wouldn't have made the team. When I first tried out for the team at Salem State as a freshman, Tibbs was a senior.
What?
Yes. And so I used to play pickup games with those guys. Now, I didn't get in very many runs. I had to wait my turn, but sometimes I'd get into the pickup games. So I tried out for the team, and I got cut my freshman year. The next year I tried out for the team, Tibbs was the assistant coach. He went from player to coach. And in that tryout, I ended up breaking my ankle. So now I'm done. So the year after that, Tibbs became the head coach. It was like 1 or 2 years, and then he became the head coach. So now I'm trying out for the team. This is my 3rd time.
Yeah.
And I'm a walk-on. So basically, I'm a cut walk-on. Life doesn't get worse. Okay? Life doesn't get worse. You're a cut walk-on. So I try out for the team. Tibbs is the head coach. 3rd time, he put me on the team. Now, I didn't make it because of my talent, my athleticism, but he valued the traits that I brought to the game. Like my skill level was my passion for the game, almost borderline obsession, kind of like him. You know, my skill was my perseverance, my persistency to keep trying. He knew I tried out multiple times. So he saw my value as a practice player and a walk-on. And what was he like? You know, really just the same now. I don't want to say he's softer now, but, he's adapted to the NBA game over the last 10, 15 years. But if you love the game, you love being in the gym with Tibbs because he was going to make you better, whether you were Paul Biancardi or Jimmy Butler. Like he can take you and make you better. He had that Rick Majerus type gene. Like Rick could take anything and just make it 1% better or 100% better. I always joke with Tibbs. I said, everybody says you're such a great coach and a great player development coach. Well, if you were that good, how come I didn't make the NBA?
Do you guys still talk a lot?
Oh, we don't. Well, not during the season, but we'll talk once or twice a year, through text and a phone call. Not a lot. I mean, he's not going to talk to very many people during the season. That's how he is. I respect it. I understand it. Conversations are usually in the off season. typically in the month of August or September, before things get started. But no, I've stayed in touch with him over the years, and we've had some really, really good conversations. And I think the world of Tibbs as a person, because I know him. Mm-hmm. And, I don't think there's a better coach in college and pro basketball. There's certainly some great ones, but I think he's one of the best. And, obviously disappointed that the Knicks let him go, and that may be another podcast for another time. But he is truly, truly brilliant when it comes to coaching, and he's great at player development. He gives his heart and soul to his team.
Did you know back then, like, what made him special? Here you are, like, he's 2 years removed from playing, that he could see things and diagram plays and motivate players. What did you see back then that led you to believe, you know what, he's going to be something?
Yeah, well, everything. You walk into practice, highly organized, right? We had pre-practice routine. After that, we had warm-up. Now, this is way back, what was it, mid to late 80s? Okay. I mean, he had the pre-practice routine. He had the warm-up, the practice plan, post-practice. He was even talking about recovery back then, not to the extent that you do it now. Scouting reports were like, small books on the opponent at Division III. I mean, he had everything down. We watched film, scouting reports. He had us do community service, in Salem, Mass. He checked on us going to class. I mean, he did it all. He used to walk into the building with binders because he would go to all the clinics, Rick Pitino, Mike Fratello, Hubie Brown, Bobby Knight. And I swear he tried to come back and beat all of those guys, right, into one. Morgan Wooten. He tried to learn so much about the game. And I think what made him great at the very beginning was two things. Extreme passion for the profession. He was a great teacher. Like when he barked out the instructions, right, you knew what to do. He had great clarity. Was he hard to play for? Yeah, physically, it was demanding, but that's what he felt that would make you a better player and our team a better team, like the best conditioned team in Division III, the smartest Division III team, like, skill level. He was into all of it back then. I knew he was destined for greatness, so I'm not surprised at all that he's in the NBA and been a 3-time, I believe, Coach of the Year in the NBA.
I mean, he brought the Knicks back to relevance for the first time in 25 years, and then they got rid of him. And like you said, that could be a whole other podcast. We don't want to go there. But you played for him, and then you became an assistant at my alma mater, Boston University, under Mike Jarvis.
Yes.
And obviously Jarvis went on to have a phenomenal career. What did you see, if any, similarities between Tibbs and Jarvis?
Well, you're talking about people that I played for, been around and worked for. But between Thibodeau and Jarvis, I worked Division III. When Tibbs left, Dana Skinner was a great player in New England. He became
related to Al Skinner?
No,
okay.
Totally different, but a great New England player. And so I got a chance to work with him at Division III at Salem State. Then I went to Jim Nelson, who was the longtime athletic director and head coach at Suffolk University. I worked with him for a few years. So I had to grind that Division III schedule. And then you called me an assistant coach, which was kind, but I was hired as the volunteer coach. So two guys are going for the last spot, myself and Andy Greer. Andy, longtime assistant with Tibbs. We both go for the last spot. We're both Division III guys. Andy got the job as the part-time assistant back then. So Mike Jarvis says, look, I have a job for you. I said, I'll take it. He says, well, you don't know what you're going to get paid. I said, it doesn't matter. He says, you'll be the volunteer assistant. I said, I'll take it. And so I was a substitute teacher and Boston University volunteer coach. So learned a lot from Coach Jarvis, different than Tom Thibodeau. Every coach is different in their approach, their personal life, their mannerisms. Mike was a phenomenal, like Tom, Mike was a great teacher of the game, a defensive-minded coach. He just came from having Pat Ewing and Carl Hobbs, right, at Cambridge Ridge and Latin. He had talent. He was a great coach. He was a professional in everything he did. He treated me like gold. And I'm the guy who's,
Well, yeah, because he wasn't paying you.
yeah, mopping the floors, get my dry cleaning, work this guy out. Hey, Dredrick Irving was there, Kyrie's dad.
Yeah.
I mean, go rebound for this guy. And then I got to do some basketball duties as well. I had study hall at nighttime. I had all the chores that you would have as a volunteer assistant. But Mike treated me so well. And at the end of the year, he paid for me to go to the Final Four, which was my, big reward for doing all the work. And he got me tickets to the game. So, I still talk to Coach Jarvis to this day. And he taught me like what discipline was on top of Tom Thibodeau and what, Tibbs taught us as a player. Coach Jarvis taught us that as a coach, how you had to have discipline. So great man.
Was that 1990?
Yep. And we lost to UConn.
And was that UNLV in the Final Four championship?
Yes. We made the NCAA tournament first round. We had to go to Hartford Civic Center and play Connecticut. That game was over at halftime.
Okay, so wait a minute. So 1990, so that was the team, if my memory serves me correctly, like Jim Calhoun, that's with like Chris Smith, Scotty Burrell, Tate George, and that's the team that lost to Christian Laettner and Duke in the Elite Eight. Wow.
Yeah, we played them real well for a half, but they were like a minor NBA team.
That was Calhoun's first real team.
Yes.
And so it kind of came full circle because the first time that he won a national championship in the Final Four, played against Ohio State, and you were an assistant coach on that team.
Yeah, that's why when you mention anybody from Connecticut to me, I don't get happy. So hey, one other thing about Mike Jarvis, great strategist, Justin. Like he could strategize and plan to beat an opponent with the team that we had versus the other team. We played Michigan in the Boston Garden. We played Maryland when Gary Williams was there. I mean, we're playing UConn, and it's a game up till halftime. It's a game. And so he was not only a great teacher because he came from the high school ranks, Mike Jarvis, not only a phenomenal human being to everybody, but a great strategist.
Okay, so tell me this, because in 1999, you get to the Final Four, but to get there, you have to beat Mike Jarvis and St. John's.
You got that right.
So, and by the way, for those of you who don't realize, that team had Ron Artest, Eric Barkley. I mean, they had a group together, and you guys had Scooney Penn, Michael Redd. Those are the big names. But did you feel like you had like a leg up on the preparation because you knew Jarvis so well?
Well, that was 9 years later, right? 1990 to 1999. And without Mike Jarvis, I wouldn't have got, to Boston College. And from Boston College, I go to Ohio State. So that's why I owe so much to Coach Jay. I had an idea how he thought. Right. I mean, you weren't going to see certain things and you had an idea about. But by then, I mean, coaching St. John's and coaching Boston University, he had a different level of talent. Those guys were really physically imposing to play against, to say the least. And it came down to I think a Scooney Penn block shot of all people to help us win the game. That was a high-level game, that game against St. John's.
Oh, I actually remember watching it in college. And I was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. And you mentioned like strong physical. Ron Artest, was there anybody stronger in college, like at a guard position than Ron Artest?
No, when I look at Ron Artest now and I think about him back then at St. John's when we played against him, we had a couple of strong players. We had athletic players. We had a kid by the name of Jason Singleton, 6'6", undersized forward, great athlete, NBA athlete. He could match up against Ron Artest. But when Ron put the ball on the floor, I mean, you're going to foul him. When he went to the glass, he was going to physically knock you over or get the rebound. I mean, he intimidated you with his presence. And then, of course, his, chirping a little bit during the game. You could hear him talk on the bench. We told our guys, just don't respond to Ron.
Did they listen?
Yes. Yeah, we had great discipline in that game. Great discipline.
It's funny. A buddy of mine who I grew up with went to 5-star, and he goes, there was one guy there that scared the crap out of everybody.
Yes.
He goes, we're playing outside. It's hot, and he's got a hooded sweatshirt, sleeves cut off, and he's got the hood pulled over. Ron Artest. He goes, everybody was scared of him.
Yeah, you didn't know what he was going to do, and Mike Jarvis didn't know what he was going to do. That's the problem. He could win the game for St. John's against anybody in the country, or he could lose his mind during the game and hurt his team, not trying to hurt his team, but just not having the composure that one needs. So we talked to our team about, discipline, not responding to words or physicality, let the officials, take care of the game. But we had to coach that part of our team in 1999.
You ever think about how weird it is, how small that circle is, the web, to think that, you come up with Tibbs and what he's doing now, then you coach under Jarvis, and then you have to play Jarvis, and it's against, the teams like that 1990 season was ridiculous because we mentioned UNLV. UNLV beat Duke that year, I think by the largest margin ever in a national championship game, and that team was loaded. So 1990 was one heck of a year for college basketball.
It really was. I mean, and I was obviously just cracking into the college basketball ranks. So I was so juiced up to be at basketball clinics, Final Fours, watch the games on TV like you did, and just to sit on the bench and have a role at Boston University. I mean, think about this. You understand this better than anyone. I went from Division III to Division I, and I didn't get paid.
Right.
But I took the jump. And then I went from a volunteer at BU down the street as a graduate assistant at 29 to BC.
First of all, that's sacrilegious. BU to BC.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to let that slide for right now.
A little bit of a problem. I'll tell you why. Jarvis and Jim O'Brien didn't want to, Jarvis wanted to play BC. BC didn't want to play BU.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at BU, and they're trying to play BC. And, articles in the paper, I'm like, yeah, they should play us. They should play us. Then I get to BC, and I'm like, no way we should be playing BU. Right? It's like, you become loyal to who you're with, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And then you go to BC, and you guys put together an incredible run in 1994. And I can remember watching the upset over Carolina in the second round. And this is the North Carolina team that had just won the national title the year before. I was thinking about who they had. Stackhouse was a freshman. Rasheed Wallace was a freshman. I believe McGinnis was a freshman. They also had Eric Montross. They had Donald Williams. And at Boston College, that made the cover of SI.
It's right to my left.
Is it?
If I just went up there.
Yes.
You see it?
Yeah, I do.
It's Take That Tar Heels. Yeah. That was special.
Describe that run. Describe prepping for that game, because obviously you're not the favorite and you go on to upset the defending champs.
Well, the backstory. This group of seniors as freshmen went 1-15 in the Big East. And we got our clocks cleaned almost every single night. We won one game. I just got there, wanted to fire the coach. And then in year 2, we make the NIT with the same group. So we show some life, right? We show progress, make the NIT. Third year, we think we're going to make the NCAA tournament, but NIT again. Make a little bit of a run in the NIT, but nothing really special. We decided to do a foreign trip. So we went to France before this group, Billy Curley, Howard Isley, Malcolm Huckabee. We had Danier Abrams now as a freshman, Gerard Abram. So we go to France. We get the 10 days of practice. We play games over in France. So we really got prepared for when they were seniors, Curley, Isley, Huckabee, and Abrams. And then we had Danier, he was 6'7", 250 on a good day.
He was a football player.
On a good day. Nimble feet, fullback that just beat the you-know-what out of everyone in the Big East. He was our missing piece. So we gradually got better as a group, which you could do back then. We went away on a foreign trip. That helped practice and games before the season ever started. We had a really good season. We came in third in the Big East, which at the time, the Big East was a massive conference, right? It had Big Monday. and
Georgetown, Syracuse,
Georgetown,
Connecticut.
Syracuse, Connecticut. Everybody was either really good, Justin, or really tough.
Yeah.
They would just beat the crap out of you, or they would just beat you up on the scoreboard. Like, there's so many stories from back then, but those teams were so talented and they were so old and physically imposing. Ray Allen, Kerry Kittles, John Wallace. We can go on and on. Villanova was great with Rowley. So we have a really good season, and we go into the Big East tournament, and we get crushed by Georgetown, first game. And we're supposed to be really good.
Right.
We got crushed. We came home, lost our confidence, not sure who we were, took a day or two off. We had plenty of time because the Big East tournament had to finish out, then the seedings for the tournament. And we had some of the toughest practices all season after the Big East tournament. NCAA comes out. We get that, I believe it's the 8 seed or the 9 seed. You can check on that as one of those two. And then we play Kelvin Sampson, Washington State in the first game. We win a close game. And then we got North Carolina next. I think we're a 9 seed playing a 1. Is that right?
I don't know if you were the 8 or 9.
We were one of those two. I know that.
You were the 8-9.
We're in Washington State playing the 8-9 game. And that game was like pulling teeth. It was physical. You can imagine how Kelvin was back then. And but then, yes, we have Carolina. So the game plan was, look, can't match their physicality, can't match their skill level, can't match their talent. How are we going to win the game? You can't change what you do. You can't make up a new defense or play a zone in one day just because you can't cover them man-to-man. So we decided the best way to beat North Carolina was to take a lot of threes and make a lot of threes. And what we did was we baited them into trapping the ball. Dean Smith loved to trap the ball, trap it on the baseline, trap it out high. They had length, athleticism, great height. We would bait the trap, get rid of it, throw one more, and then maybe the extra pass to the opposite corner would get open threes. We were one of the first teams, I really believe this from scouting, that really emphasized, this is 1994, the one more pass. Like everyone talks about drive, kick, one more. Well, we had one more, and then the extra. We make 14 threes, and that's how we won.
Holy cow. So who had the idea to do that?
It came up as a staff. Like we didn't have a lot of time, but we said, look, we see how through scouting, you see how they shut off the baseline, and then they just kind of suffocate you. So instead of going all the way into the trap, just take one dribble, bait the trap, and you have to move the ball to the other side very quickly before the rotations. If you do that, you're going to get open shots on the weak side. We practiced it as best as we could with a short window of prep, and we made those shots. Again, we had seniors, so guys that could pick up things quickly in 24, 48 hours. We didn't change what we did. We just modified it. That's the best way to say it. We modified what we did. And then once you started making threes, then you started, feeding the post to Billy Curley. He had a one-on-one situation late in the game against Eric Montross. And I'll never forget it. He scores with his lefty jump hook. And as the ball's going in the basket, the whole bench is yelling out, run that again, run it again. And it was an isolation for Billy, but you can't get an isolation unless you make 3-point shots. So that was the game plan, and it worked, and it was a great upset. And then we had Bobby Knight the next week.
What was it like being on the bench during that game?
Try to stay focused on the game versus, the magnitude of the game, right? Guys calling the game. Bill Rafferty, our friend.
Raph was on it?
Was on the game. Yeah, I think it was Sean McDonough and Raph.
Okay.
Raph was making all these Jesuit jokes about us during the game. He was like, they got to get on their knees and pray for this one. You know how Raph is. And Sean McDonough, actually a BC alum. I believe he was on the game.
No, he's a Syracuse alum. He's a Boston kid. Yeah.
Boston guy. And Clark Kellogg, too. I think it was all three of them.
Wow.
Phenomenal group doing the game. But you just try to stay locked in. You saw the jersey, but if you get intimidated by the jersey, you're going to lose the game, right? You can't look at the jersey and say, what are we going to do? Look, you played Georgetown. You played Connecticut. You played Villanova. You played Syracuse. This is that level, notch higher. Number 1 seed, last year's national champs. We had to bring some Big East toughness to us. And I'll tell you what, we had tough kids. Like, they did not get intimidated by McGinnis, who was a great player. You mentioned Stackhouse. Montross was huge inside. They were big, they were strong, they were physical, and they were North Carolina. But we didn't see anything but trying to beat them. We did not care what they said on their shirt.
All right, so this may sound like a weird question. That win or winning the 97 Big East championship, which is bigger?
So different, right? One's a run against teams that you don't know, you don't see all year. The other one is just like the WWE Royal Rumble, right? There's 20 guys in the cage and you got to get out. That's what the Big East championship was like, the Royal Rumble. I'm going to have to say the run was just a little bit better because you're one game, you're playing Florida with the right to go to the Final Four. It's never been done before at Boston College. Big East championship was never done either. So both were great, but I'd have to say the run over the course of 3 weeks was exhilarating, to say the least. And you just had to really stay focused on the opponent and not all the publicity.
Right. And then thinking about that 94 run, you mentioned Kelvin Sampson, Dean Smith, Bobby Knight. Think about who you guys just went up against and beat. That's remarkable.
Yeah, that's the side story. And you're playing Lon Kruger, who's taken 5 different teams, I believe, to the NCAA tournament. And, he gets his Florida team to the Final Four. Yeah, we played against Hall of Fame coaches, and I put Lon in that category for sure. And yeah, we beat, I think, the best of the best. When you look back now at all these great coaches that have been in the game or are still in the game, yeah. And the head coach for Boston College was Jim O'Brien. And, he was the coach of the year at St. Bonaventure. He was the coach of the year at Boston College. He goes to Ohio State. He was the coach of the year. I mean, he was a great strategist, a really, really smart offensive-minded coach, and a player's coach. He was a great player at Boston College, and he played in the old ABA. He had a great relatability with his guys.
Who's tougher to game plan against, Dean Smith or Bobby Knight?
2 different coaches in terms of styles. Bobby Knight was going to run his motion offense, and you had to cover 5 guys moving at once, not knowing where they were going to go, but you had to cover all those screening actions, down screens, back screens, flare screens, cross screens. And they knew each other so well that you had to always be alert to what was happening next. With Dean Smith, it was the system, right? The system wasn't changing. It was simple, but the players were extraordinarily talented and physically imposing and just so athletic. So the system versus the motion were 2 totally different preps. Thank goodness we had a week of time. I think the motion was tougher, quite honest. Now, the players were better at North Carolina than Indiana. Indiana had great players back then, but North Carolina had pros. So I would say that motion offense, because if you're not alert and you're not ready, Knight's going to carve you up. And his man-to-man defense was stingy, was tough. It was hard to score against Indiana in a half-court set, right? Half-court man-to-man, half-court motion offense. They weren't changing who they were. North Carolina, you knew the system and you knew the players. Could you survive 40 minutes and pull out a win? That was the question.
Could you hear Coach Knight's language on the sideline?
No, not from where I was sitting. No, not at all. But we played at Indiana when we were at Ohio State. We actually won up there. We've had pretty good success against Coach Knight when he coached, but up in Assembly Hall, a couple of times you could read lips.
Well, do me a favor and let's rewind and talk about those Big East days, because you mentioned it was just so physical. And the guys that came up through that time that you were at Boston College until you left to go to Ohio State, Paul, you can make a case that was the height of the Big East. I mean,
Yes.
The 80s when you had Patrick Ewing and Chris Mullin, yeah, that was big. But the depth and the talent in the 90s in the Big East was off the charts. I mean, Alonzo Mourning at Georgetown. Then you had Allen Iverson at Georgetown. You had Ray Allen, at UConn. Kerry Kittles at Villanova. On and on. You said John Wallace. And, I mean, there are so many players that went on to NBA careers and had incredible college careers. What was the Big East like in those 90s?
And don't forget two other guys I got to mention, Dikembe Mutombo.
Mm-hmm.
We played Georgetown when they had Mourning and Mutombo. I mean, that was like you had to take 4 Tylenols before the game. I mean, I'm serious. And I can tell you this because nobody's listening but me and you. But after the games, I was young then, right?
Yeah.
And so you either would having a drink to celebrate or a drink of misery.
Yep.
And you're taking Tylenol all the time because you just had headaches after those games, or you had massive relief. And your friend and my friend, Dickie Simpkins.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Providence.
He looked like an NBA forward, and we had like Malcolm Huckabee at 6'3" trying to cover him. And Dickie was relentless on the glass. That's the way Rick Barnes coached back then, right? So, I mean, you felt like you were in a fight. And then when you looked at them as basketball players, honestly, and you watch NBA games, you could see how these guys went to the NBA and became successful because they looked like NBA players in college.
Mm-hmm.
And back then they all stayed.
Right.
Very few left. Iverson might have left, I think, after
sophomore year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the fastest human being I've ever seen sitting on a college bench was Allen Iverson. The speed was incredible. And the confidence was off the charts. And he could play bad for 39 minutes and beat you at the end. I mean, he was amazing to coach against. So your scouting had to be so on point. But there were some games where the strategy didn't matter because they were going to knock the ball out of your hands. They were going to knock you over. The officials were going to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And you better play through the bumps, the strips. And if you don't, the game plan doesn't work. When Rick Barnes was at Providence, their best shot was a miss. 4 guys to the glass. If you don't block out, they're going to get 30 points on second chance opportunities. Georgetown back then, they couldn't shoot. Name one great shooter Georgetown had back then. Joey Brown a little bit. Iverson was a clutch shooter.
Right.
That ball went up, man. Oh, my gosh. And, we're 4 inches shorter, 20 pounds lighter, and not as mean.
So
and the last thing I'm going to tell you is this. Calhoun, John Thompson, Jim Boeheim, name any one of them. They got you down, they're going to step on you hard. There was we're up 30 with 3 minutes to go. Maybe we should. No. They were going to beat you up, send you home. No mercy. No mercy back then.
The way it should be. None of the sportsmanship stuff. Who was the hardest to prep for? What
in the Big
player?
East?
Yeah, in the Big East.
Player? Well, I would have to say 2 guys come to mind. I don't know how long I can make the list. Allen Iverson, you had to do certain things or he was getting layups. Kerry Kittles was amazing because not only could he shoot, but he could drive and he understood how to get open.
Okay.
And then to me, the toughest one was Ray Allen.
Yep.
Yeah. Ray Allen, I mean, the way he got his feet set and ready to shoot it, like you had to have special rules for Ray Allen.
What were those rules?
You just got to chase him off every screen. If you go inside on a screen, he's going to fade it and you're dead because they're going to find him. And if you're not there on the catch, he's going to shoot it and make it. Like you had to be there as soon as he caught it. And they would set so many screens for Ray Allen, and he would race baseline to baseline or to the top of the key off of double screens to get open. He worked as hard as anybody I've ever seen to get open. And we all know the jump shot, how beautiful it is.
And the crazy part is, Paul, people forget back then he was also a slasher. He can get to the hoop.
He could. And if you closed out too hard, too much, yeah, he put it on the deck and he could punch it on you. So he was the toughest guy, in my opinion. You knew what he was going to do, but you couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
Right. And Calhoun was great at, getting him shots. And then I would say Kittles, Iverson, and to me personally, like every time I saw Alonzo Mourning, I was like, you can only put 2 guys on him because then they'd have 4 against 3, but you feel like you needed 3 guys to stop him. He was just so physically imposing. He was an animal in everything that he did. He was relentless, posting up, going to the glass, setting a screen. It's like running into a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
And he was I'm getting tired thinking about it.
Well, it's funny because I'm thinking about it right now, and I can remember watching him back in those days at Georgetown, and he had the wrist taped up, and I was like, man, this guy's how old?
Yeah.
And the only other player in my lifetime that I can think of in college who was that physically imposing was Shaq.
That's a good call. And I've never seen Shaq like that, in college or ever coached against him. But Alonzo was the most physically imposing player that I can remember Big Ten, Big East, coaching against. Because he had skill. He had touch close to the basket. He never wandered away from the basket. Like your best defense was to put 2 on him or foul him.
And you said, and he also played with Dikembe Mutombo. So it's like, how do you possibly try to drive the ball to the hoop against those 2 guys?
You can't. You're exactly right. And John didn't play zone. It was all man-to-man all the time. But he would keep Alonzo or Dikembe when they were in there together, sagging. Now, you couldn't get to the rim. Maybe in transition if you could cash in on a turnover or just beat them down the floor. But your offense had to be mid-range jump shots and threes, and you had to be real good at it or get them in some rotation where Alonzo had to run and close out, and then you can drive the closeout. But that's why they won so many games. That's why they were so great. And they intimidated you.
Oh,
and if you let them intimidate you like a street fight, you got no shot.
And that was Big John. Me as a kid watching on TV, I was scared just looking at him. He had the towel, and I was like, this guy's going to crush someone. Did you sense that as an assistant on the sideline?
No doubt about it. He was on his guys to play hard. He didn't care how well they played in terms of skill. He didn't coach or get upset on the turnovers. Like you see a lot of coaches go, oh my gosh, they turned it over. He was about the next play and about being relentless. Like if you don't sprint your ass back, he was going to rip the guy. He didn't rip him for the turnover. He'd rip him if he didn't get back.
Wow.
And if he didn't rebound and he didn't fight over the screen and if they didn't trap hard enough. He worked the officials and he worked his guys. He never said a word to the opposing team players. Like he would never talk. Most coaches didn't. But for a guy who was so demonstrative, he was locked in on his team's physicality and intensity. And then obviously he knew he could intimidate the officials and he was really good at it.
Was there any other coach that you ever dealt with who had the intimidation factor that Big John Thompson had?
Well, Bobby Knight for sure.
Okay.
Rolly Massimino without a doubt.
Really? Rolly?
Rolly, you mean intimidating the officials?
No, just intimidating like you or just when you see them, you're like,
yeah. Well,
okay,
yeah, Rolly had that. He had that flair of he knew exactly what his team was going to do, and he was borderline, confident, cocky. And he had an air about him that, he was nice to you or friendly to you away from the court, but when that game came on, man, he was a fighting Italian.
I love it.
His team would really be physical, even though they were really skilled and smart. Rolly didn't let his guys, play soft, if you will.
I'll tell you a funny story. Growing up, I went to Fairfield University basketball camp. Mitch Bonaguro was the head coach.
Yep.
And he had Rolly come in and talk, right? So I'm this young kid, and I'm like glued to every word Rolly Massimino's saying. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then at the end of camp that day, Coach Bonaguro calls me up to do a drill. And so I do the drill, and he's like, "Are you Italian?" I said, "No." He goes, "Are you sure you're not Italian?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Because if you're Italian, I'll give you 2 prizes." I go, "Okay, I'm Italian." So that day, I was that Italian little kid, and I got 2 Nike keychains, and I had them for a long time. But that was my memory of Bonaguro and Rolly. And I think about you, the Italian in you, and everything. I have to think Rolly had to like you.
No, he did not. Rolly was about Rolly and his staff, right? Jay Wright, our good friend. Jay was an assistant when I was an assistant. That's when I met Jay. But no, it was Jay. It was Steve Lapis, Mitch Bonaguro. Rolly was only about his family, right? I might have been an extended family through the Italian heritage, but no. Well, Rolly wasn't about the opposition. That's the same thing with John Thompson. I mean, they were like locked in on their team, their staff, and how can they get an edge with the officials and how they can intimidate you during the game. Yeah, Rolly had a presence on the sideline. Wasn't intimidating to me, but I felt like he was going to get all the calls and his team was going to be maybe smarter or tougher in big moments. He was one of the best coaches. You know, Jay can tell you more than I, but in big moments, Rolly had his team, going. Like, they were hard to play against because they were so damn smart, skilled, and they had a little bit, he recruited just enough edge.
Yeah.
So, he had just enough, the teams had just enough toughness.
Give me an example of whether it's Big John, Rolly, Bob Knight, what they would do to the officials, how they would work them to get the calls.
Well, obviously they would be loud, hand gestures, follow the official up the sideline. So as the official starts going, they walk right with them. And, they stay on the official. They would stay locked into the official. Just keep hammering that guy. Then when that official came back down, they were on him again. And you could just see those guys wearing out the official. PJ Carlissimo.
Love PJ.
Man, I love PJ, but he was no picnic to play against either now. I mean, his kids, they were either going to fight you at Seton Hall or they had to fight him after. Like he was hard on his kids. That's why they were so good. Mm-hmm. But PJ worked the official too now. I mean, they were such big. They were bigger than the game, right? Back then in the 90s, you mentioned a Big East coach. They were like celebrities. Yes. They were people that you just looked up to as a coach. The media made them huge. The television networks promoted Big East basketball coaches shows.
Yes.
And they were figures. They were all different, right? Jim Boeheim, kind of quiet, reserved, but very smart man, knew what he was doing with his team, recruited a certain way, length and athleticism. You knew they were playing zone all day long, and didn't matter when you go up to the Carrier Dome, you turn it over 10 times, they're going to score 20 points against those turnovers. And you know the zone, you knew the slides. Go ahead. He'd say, go ahead, try to beat it.
I did a game of his. I went to shoot around. No, I actually went to practice the day before. And he did not say a word the entire practice, was sitting on a chair. And all of a sudden, he just said, "What play are we running?"
Yeah.
That was it. What play are we running? He said 5 words in 2 to 2.5 hours.
Justin, he was as simple a coach with great talent. And that's why some guys overcoach, right? Mm-hmm. He recruited to the system. He knew who he wanted. They went out and got it. And then he coached it. He just coached the zone and the slides. They made adjustments during games. And offensively, half their points came from turnovers. When I was my first year at BC, I was in charge of facilities for the opposition, schedule shoot-around time.
Yep.
So Syracuse has shoot-around time for the game. They don't show up. Now, I don't know this back then, so I'm sitting there waiting. Nobody shows. So, okay, I left. Game comes, warm-ups. Coaches are going to shake hands, right? 2 minutes before the game, Everybody went down and pretended like they loved each other, right? He said, "Coach, I had shoot-around time for you. I just want you to know that I was there in we had the gym for you. He goes, we don't shoot. But no one told me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, okay. He says, and and he goes to me, I'm going to tell you why. He says, in 1 minute, this game's going to, he looked up at Conti for me. He goes, this game's going to start in 1 minute. And you see those guys over there? He's pointing to his team. He says, they're going to beat your guys. That's what he said. He says, we're really good. And he says, they don't want to hear me much. They're going to hear me for the next 2 hours. Like, he's giving me this pep talk, or he's like, our guys are going to kick your ass in about a minute. I'm like, I don't know what to think. First of all, I thought not shooting around, there was something wrong. He knew his team. He knew his voice. He knew his presence. And, man, they played for him during the game. But he knew he couldn't spend too much time with them. Great coach. Knows his team, knows who he can coach, knows who can play for him. And the system was really, really hard to play against, that zone.
Yeah.
Ask all the coaches that have lost to him, and they've had preparation time. And we beat him a few times, but not many.
All that time as an assistant coach, learning from some of the greats, playing against some of the greats, when you get that chance to become a head coach, what are you trying to take from all those people you learn from, or are you trying to just be yourself?
Well, you have to be yourself, but inevitably you're trying to be someone else because somebody rubbed off on you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a little bit of everyone. Maybe it's one particular person. I think when I look back at, becoming a head coach, I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was teaching and I knew how to correct it. Because you can put it in any offense or any defense, but if you can't teach it and you can't correct it, know what you teach, right? Teach what you know.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best thing I did. So I did what I knew the best, what I could teach the best, how I could correct it in games. I had a lot of information. Go to basketball clinics, coach in the Big East, Big Ten. You see everyone's different style of play. So you have to do what's really comfortable for you. And then, of course, you got to hire a staff of people that, in my mind, the first two qualities I look for was loyalty and trust. Because if you don't have that, the job's hard enough. Like, to recruit players, really hard, because you got to beat out 9 other schools in your conference trying to get them. And you're also trying to beat teams from other conferences, right? And then you got the games. So you better have a very loyal and trustworthy staff, which I did at Wright State. I had a great staff.
As a head coach, what was more enjoyable for you, the practices or the games?
Yeah, you hear that question a lot. Like with Rick Majerus, truthfully, he's one of the few guys that I know practice he enjoyed way more than the games. Like, I lived it. I was in, meetings with him. He could practice for 4 or 5 hours. The game, he was so wound up for the game. What did I enjoy more? Early on, I probably enjoyed the games more. Young, competitive, let's play the game, who's going to win. And then as you get older in the profession, or as I got older, I enjoyed practice more because you could see how the team would come together, not just in the course of 1 year, but again, we didn't have the portal. So
right,
you usually had the same team back. You might have lost a guy or brought in a guy, but there wasn't a lot of change. So the evolution of your team, you could look and say, okay, in year 2, we can be this. In year 3, we can be this. So that was really fun. You could project how your team could be. So games first and then practices second.
All right, let's talk about Majerus. This guy had a huge impact on you. You coached with him 1 year.
Yeah.
What was it about him that he had this impact on you?
He was brilliant in terms of teaching. He was the best teacher. You could argue and say him and Bob Knight, right, were the two best teachers that I've ever either coached against or been with. I heard Bobby Knight speak at a lot of clinics, and then obviously got a chance to coach against Knight and prepare for his teams, 3, 4, 5 times. Majerus was a brilliant teacher of the game. He was somebody who paid great attention to detail. He was obsessed about preparation, and he had no slippage. He also had no life. So maybe they go hand in hand. I don't know. But he knew what he was doing, meaning on the court, offense, defense, baseline, out about everything was, up here for him and on paper, but he knew what he was teaching. why he was teaching it, how he could correct it, give the players feedback. He was disciplined. His teams were disciplined in the fundamentals of the game. He could out-execute you and out-fundamental you. And it's as simple as that sounds. It is. But, Justin, we worked on it all the time. And when you do something all the time, you become great at it. And not just the practice, but the film and the strength and conditioning.
What was his ability to adjust in game like?
He was more focused. He was very focused on the opposition in terms of individual player tendencies, way more than what plays they were running. Our scouting reports were one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. Like my first scouting report, I was up till 2:20 in the morning in the office putting it together still because of what he wanted. He wanted player tendencies. Every player, just in case whoever got in the game, you had to know where they scored from, the frequency at which they scored from, right hand, left hand, were they back to the basket, driver, mid-range, guys coming off screens. I mean, he had categories among categories. So we knew what the other guy was going to do 9 out of 10 times. And so we put our scouting report towards the player tendencies, then towards the plays. So he was a master in that respect. And offensively, he coached his team. I'll tell you something about him in games that was amazing. You see this big burly guy, right? Yeah. Never, very rarely, if ever, argued with an official. So I'm on the bench with Porter Moser, who's now at Oklahoma.
Yeah, wow.
And we're two, former head coaches. And as soon as the ball goes up, we're on the official. Like with hey, that's 3 seconds. He's holding him. All this stuff. Rick is like this during the game. He's not on. He doesn't talk to the official, doesn't say anything. Once in a great while, if he thought it was a really bad call, he would bark at that guy. And if he thought it was really bad, he'd pound the scorer's table. And when Rick Majerus pounds the scorer's table, everybody in the place knew. But other than that, he never talked to the official, ever. The officials would talk to us where the ball was, or if the officials knew not to talk to him. Like, he was really locked into his team. And I think that made him a special coach. He took no time to talk to an official. Everything was about his players and the opponent's scouting report. That's all he locked in on every single possession throughout the whole game.
I've heard stories. I need confirmation. Pre-game, maybe night before, night after, meals in his room. They're like of legend. Are they true? Like, what would he do hosting like a dinner for the coaches?
Oh, he'd order all the food. I don't even know why we got a menu. The menus would get handed out, and then when the waitress would come over and say, "What do you have?" and he'd start ordering for everybody. I'm going to order these 3 appetizers. Okay. And then when she would bring those, he goes, bring out 3 ribeyes, 3 pasta dishes. Like, it was like a feast.
Yeah.
So, it was amazing. The way we would eat at dinners. One of the funny stories, you'll love this one. You had a day off every week. So when we were off during the week, we'd go in the office and he would want to have a work lunch at like 1:00. So we go to the Italian district in St. Louis, the Hill.
Yep.
So you go in the office, you do your work because nobody was going to bother you. But then when you got to the working lunch, it's whatever he wanted to talk about. So we're eating appetizers, salads, lunch, work, talk, eat. He's taking phone calls. While he takes a phone call, you get your Palm Pilot or whatever you had back then, your BlackBerry, and you're doing your work. And then he'd get off the phone. He would be taking calls from Don Nelson, Del Harris, George Karl, Doc Rivers. Like, he knew everybody, and everybody loved him in the basketball world.
Yeah.
Or sometimes he'd talk to a friend. So now it's 4:45. Okay. And we just had dessert. And Porter and I had, young family. And we're like, this is the day off, right?
Right.
All right, with 5 o'clock, we think we should get home. He goes, all of a sudden he goes, hey, this was a great working lunch. He says, let's go down the street at Lorenzo's at 5 o'clock and have dinner. I couldn't even breathe. I ate so much. And then he goes, on me. So he just paid for lunch. He wants to take us for dinner. And he just wants to talk either about the team, recruiting, an opponent, a recruit 2 years from now, anything basketball related. So sometimes you had to go lunch and then dinner. And it was a slow eater. Everything was slow. The appetizers come out, you just kind of graze on them and eat them. And he would tell the waitress, don't bring the next round and, food until we're done with this. Very, very long, drawn out meals. Like you weren't going in there and eating and getting out in an hour.
Right.
But it was great one day when he said, yeah, let's go have dinner. He just had lunch for 4.5 hours.
Would he have any alcohol or was it just food?
Never saw him have a sip of alcohol. When I was with him either at St. Louis or prior to St. Louis, I met him at Wright State when I was the head coach. Never saw him have a drink at all. Never. But I'll tell you, I got to tell you one other story.
Please.
This is the best. This may be the all-time. We're getting ready for the first game, his first game back after 3 years out, right? He was at ESPN. He had 3 years away from the game. We're playing Pittsburgh in a multi-team event, I guess you can call it still, at Pittsburgh. There's 6 teams. We open up with Pittsburgh, St. Louis. We're not good. Like, we are really bad. So we're getting ready for the game, approaching the game. And it's right around, back then it was right after Thanksgiving. Might have been our first game, but we played some exhibitions. So Thanksgiving morning in the office, talk, practice, a little bit of talk after that, 2 o'clock. Everybody goes home for Thanksgiving. I just got to St. Louis. I'm having dinner with my wife and kids with a neighbor who I don't even know. And about 4:30, my phone rings. I had the scout on Pittsburgh. He said, hey, how you doing? I said, good, coach. I'm having Thanksgiving dinner with some neighbors. Oh, good, great. Hey, when you're done, can you come back to my hotel? I said, sure, coach. What's the matter? He goes, I want to go over that scouting report on Pittsburgh. I said, coach, we just did it for 4 hours this morning. We talked about Pittsburgh. We had practice. We talked after practice. No, I know. Can you come over? I took a deep breath. I was like, sure. So 7:30, I drive from my neighborhood back to his hotel, go up to his room. I was a little hot. Like this, we don't need this.
Right.
So I go in the room and he's like, yeah, he goes, hey, thanks a lot. He goes, I just want to go over everything one more time, make sure we're good on this because, we're leaving tomorrow. And it was his first game. And I didn't realize it. He didn't say it. But when I look back at it, it was the first game he was going to coach after being out. And he was so obsessed with the preparation. Hey, this is how we're guarding this guy, right? And we want this matchup, right? And we're going to sub in this player first, right? Yeah, coach, we just talked about it. But at that moment, I didn't realize it. He was just so concerned about his first game back that he just wanted the comfort of hearing everything again. So, on Thanksgiving to go back to his hotel after 4 or 5 hours together in the morning was a little different.
Yeah. Man, the guy, just a legend. And I love seeing all your social media posts about him and just different things, sayings and ideas that he had that he would pass along to everyone. Just a basketball junkie, I think, is the best way to put it for Rick Majerus.
It is. And I actually put him and Tom Thibodeau together. They had a dinner one night. They got together.
You connected them.
I helped connect them.
Okay.
I think it was an NBA. Might have been Doc Rivers, because Doc played for Rick when Rick was an assistant with Al McGuire at Marquette.
Wow, Marquette. Okay.
Tom and Doc worked together with the Celtics. I worked for Rick, so there was commonality, and we were talking about it, and because Rick knew I played for Tom, and so I think Doc put them together, and then I kind of helped facilitate it a little more. I said, hey, coach, you should definitely meet Tom. you guys would get along great. Like,
Yeah.
they're really clones of each other, really are. They have no slippage in their approach with everything. He would always say, everybody thinks my team is prepared. He says, we are, but they have no idea how disciplined we're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his secret. His teams were disciplined, and he was a master teacher, and he could convey any basketball point to any player. High IQ, low IQ, tough, soft, didn't matter. He was going to get his point across. And players understood his clarity. He had great teaching phrases. So once you picked up those phrases, that's what I post every Monday with Majerus. They're his teaching phrases. Justin, I don't even have to look them up. I can think about them. They come to my head and I post them. Now, some I look up.
Right.
But I can recite them because
what's your favorite one?
Well, that one, he thinks, everyone thinks we're going to be prepared, but we're going to be disciplined. Like he was telling his team that.
Mm-hmm.
He would make the team everybody had a notebook back then. They took notes on everything he said before practice. He had so many great quotes in terms of, the quickest way to get beat is to take a bad shot. Right. That was one of his biggest things. He had technical phrases on, how to play the low post. You front the post. There's 3 ways to front the post. He always had these little teaching points of emphasis. And once you got it, you just knew it, and you could react on the court as a player.
Right.
And that's why his teams played at such a high level, because he was a high level teacher.
It's so cool. It's crazy. Paul, we are an hour into this, and we haven't even discussed what your job is with ESPN. As a director of national recruiting and watching these high schoolers come through and trying to project what they're going to be. That's how you and I met.
Yeah.
We did high school basketball together for, about 2-3 years at ESPN, had some great times there, saw some incredible players play. I mean, for me, I can remember going to practice to watch Kyrie Irving at St. Pat's in Jersey, and his teammate was Michael Gilchrist. It wasn't Kid Gilchrist at that time. We saw, Austin Rivers. The amount of people that we saw, Anthony Davis, it was wild. For you getting into this side of the business, how do you take all those lessons you learned, whether as an assistant or as a head coach, and help you evaluate these young kids to project what they're going to be at the next level and maybe the following level?
Yeah, that's a great question, Justin. All those years of being an assistant coach, a head coach, and even a Division III assistant coach, and playing or being on a college team, it groomed me for this position that I never thought I would ever do, never thought I wanted to do. I was with Rick Majerus when the job offer came. And it was a very good offer at the time. It was ground floor. And as you know, you and I started together.
Yep.
And I quickly found out how much you knew about basketball, which was a lot. You're a semi junkie. You love the game. You knew the players. You had your opinion as a play-by-play guy. You had some analyst in you, and you were right. You were right, but you had to save him for me. That was no. It prepared me to help evaluate the players and put a list together. That's what I did my whole life, right? I recruited McDonald's All-Americans. I recruited high major players. I recruited mid-major players. So I had an eye, I thought, for talent and how a kid could project at the next level in college and as an NBA player as well, because I had a chance to coach NBA players and unfortunately coached against more NBA players than we recruited. But we had some good NBA players with Howard Isley. Billy Curley was a first-round pick. And, of course, Michael Redd, one of the best second-round picks ever.
Yeah.
So it really prepared me for the job that I had. And I think my resume in coaching qualified me for the position. That it was a big part for ESPN as to why they, came after me.
What I saw was just how all the coaches reacted to you when they saw you. And there was a mutual respect. And I always thought that was really cool to see. Like, they would actually ask your opinion on certain things. And not everyone that I work with do coaches do that. but they actually respected your opinion. And that should make you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, well, it does. And thank you. I walked in their shoes for 22 years, coached against them, recruited against them. Like they might have done a home visit and then we were coming in after them. So everything they have done, I did. So it becomes like now you're not a threat anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can help them.
Right.
Like, I mean, I've had some coaches come up to me and say, would you offer this kid a scholarship? Would you take this kid? Why? I'm talking Hall of Fame coaches in private,
right?
Whether
of course,
in person or on the phone. You name the conference, and they've asked. And I do cherish that relationship because I love to help people. I love to help basketball players become better and improve and understand what they're going through. And I love to help coaches because I know how hard their job is.
For your job now, it kind of came up after LeBron James went through high school. And then the high school game got more attention. For you, watching these players over the years, what's been your biggest takeaway from how high school was, let's say in 2008, to where high school basketball is now in 2025?
You mean the game or the player?
Both.
Yeah. Well, the game hasn't unfortunately changed too much. We're finally getting more and more states that have a shot
clock.
That's my big before I die, I want to have a shot clock in every state. I mean, I just think the game needs it, whether you're Paul Biancardi or whether you're Austin Rivers or Justin Kutcher. Shot clock should be in the high school game. Kids should be able to function and execute, or at least try to, within 30 seconds. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that. So that's coming, Justin. I think we're at 15 states now. Okay. And now the National High School Federation is allowing every state to have a shot clock. So as soon as the states can fund it, which isn't that much at all right now for both the boys and the girls, I think that will change completely.
I'd like to see, actually, as we're just spitballing here, but all those players that you covered over the years in high school who have gone on to amazing things in the NBA, become all-stars and become multi-millionaires. A lot of them have their own AAU teams now.
Yep.
I wonder if those guys would all get together and say, you know what, we're going to fund a shot clock so that everyone across the country could do it.
It's a wonderful idea. They're not parting with their money.
You never know.
I don't know. Hey, I know I know Nike talked about it at one time, as putting a shot clock in every state and putting the swish on the shot clock. It's a great way to advertise their brand. I don't know if anybody wants to fund it, but the game needs a national shot clock, right? Everybody has it with a universal time. I think that's important too. 35, 30, 24. Right. Let's pick one time and do it. So that's changing, and I love it, and I think it will eventually get there. But it's been a slow animal in terms of change. The players, Justin, it's so funny. Were you around when Stanley Johnson was coming up?
Yes.
From Arizona. Mm-hmm. Like, I just went to the NBPA Top 100 camp, and I saw former pros coaching their coaching. They were learning how to be a coach, and they were coaching teams. Isaiah Thomas, who came out in 2006-07, who I coached at a camp. Stanley Johnson, who we covered. Like, these guys come over to you and say hello. And that tells me that the relationship we had at that time was a good relationship, as I always tried to give them advice to make them a better player. And they remembered that, and I think they respected that. Andre Drummond came over, right? Like, it was the who's who of back then when you and I were doing the games.
Yeah.
The players are obviously so much more, I think, skilled individually, but I don't know if they know how to play a team game. And that's the big knock against today's player that I get watching, and from the NBA down, the IQ. And if you think about college basketball right now with the portal, like, coaches need to have a good season. They don't have time to build a good program, right?
Yeah, and it brings up a great point about why you look at all the MVPs in the NBA, and they're all international players.
IQ is a big thing that's lacking in our high school coaches teaching And the players, if you're not going to teach the players, like, you can blame them, but somebody's got to show them and teach them. And if they're not being taught anything but a ball screen, and they don't know how to play without the ball in their hands, or they don't know how to play without dribbling the ball, they're going to struggle as they move up in levels. So I'd love to see the IQ continue to get better over the course of time for all these high school players that are coming up through the ranks, because the talent and the athleticism and what they're able to learn from people, it's individually based, not team-based.
All right. So with that said, we're going to move into the segment that I like to end all my podcasts in, called This Just In. And it's rapid fire.
Oh, boy.
And it's whatever comes to mind, you say. The best high school player you ever evaluated?
LeBron James.
Doesn't count. You weren't at ESPN at that time.
Oh, I was at Ohio State, though.
Yeah, you know, he wasn't coming.
Okay, well, he was going to come, but anyway.
He wasn't going. Once he got the Hummer, the H2, he wasn't going.
We lost him to the NBA. Okay, Anthony Davis.
Why?
At that time, the length and the guard skills, and he just had so much skill, finesse, fluidity, and he could go inside. And on the defensive end, boy, he covered ground. I mean, he was a range shot blocker. He can block shots at the rim or at the three-point line. To me, he still stands out as maybe the best that I've seen at my time at ESPN.
And remember, Anthony Davis didn't go to a big basketball school in high school. And the next year he goes to Kentucky and they win the national championship.
That's right.
So good call on you right there. How about the biggest hit that you had? So people were like, I'm not so sure about this guy, but you were like, no. This guy's the one.
Oh, in terms of rankings?
Yeah, sure.
Biggest hit? I'd probably say, Tyus Jones when he was coming up, because, small guard, doesn't have upside. And I'll give you another one now that I'm thinking about it. Jalen Brunson. I had him in the top 15 in the country. The rankings go like this. What you do in high school in terms of your performances, your productivity level. How can you impact the college game? Now, a lot has to do with the opportunity you're given over time, but it also has a lot to do with the player and how good they can be in college at the top 25 program. And then where do you project? Just project NBA draft. That's it. I don't know if you're going to be an NBA player, how good. Even the owners don't know. And the GMs, they don't know how good you're going to be. So that's how I do the rankings. So it's a criteria of those things. So Jalen Brunson, I got a little bit of heat, small, this, that. Okay, he wins. He's tough, and he's smart, and he's skilled. And Tyus Jones as well. I thought he was he played himself into a one and done at Duke. I did not know he was going to play himself into a one and done at that time. Thought he had a chance to make the NBA. But as you remember, he was fabulous in the NCAA tournament. They had Justice Winslow, Okafor, and Coach K did a marvelous job with that unit.
How about your biggest miss?
Oh, there's a lot of misses. Well, when I first started, I had Avery Bradley as the number one player in the class.
For Texas.
He was the best two-way player in high school ball. I thought he'd impact in college at Texas. I thought he did a job impacting Texas. Obviously was a lottery pick. But the guy who either I misevaluated on and probably did was John Wall. And he was the fifth player in the class, not far away. But Avery was one. In fact, I saw John Wall at the NBA Top 100 camp. And every time I see John, he goes, number 5. Number 5. And I'm like, hey, I was with Bradley Beal at the Jordan Brand Classic. We were doing the game on TV. Like, he remembered his ranking, but you know what they remember? Who was in front of them.
Correct.
He goes like, I said, who did I have in front of you? He goes, well, you had Austin Rivers. He goes, that's okay. I said, well, what do you want me to do, Bradley? You were like 3 or 5. They remember their ranking.
We did Beal's game in high school.
We did in St. Louis together.
Yes, we did that game together. And I remember that game. And at halftime, we're talking. And I'm like, how is Beal ranked here? You're like, well, I'm like, this guy's phenomenal. And then I became the Wizards announcer, and Beal remembered. And
I remember you telling me that because you would ask me a bunch of questions off air. You sure?
Yeah.
You sure he shouldn't be higher? All these other play-by-play guys, Mike Cousins, Ted Emmerich, right? They all question me. Matt Schick, is he going to move up? I think he's really good.
Well, you mentioned Dickie Simpkins before. His nickname for me is Baby GM. So we would always talk, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to go look at this guy?" He's like, "All right, Baby GM." I'm like, I'm just helping you out. I'm just helping you out. How about the best high school game that you've broadcasted on TV?
The most exciting game was at Madison Square Garden. It's Dick's Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Cousins and I. Oak Hill with their first national championship. A tip-in at the buzzer. Madison Square Garden, ESPN. Steve Smith.
Yep.
You know very well. You play golf with him.
Yep.
Wins his first national championship on ESPN at the buzzer. The team came running out on the floor. It was Hadim C, big man, who tipped it in at the buzzer. And to this day, I can't get that game out of my mind. So to me, that was probably the best, most exciting, and most meaningful game that I can remember.
I love it. I know you're a Boston guy. Your favorite Celtics team of all time?
86.
That was quick. I like it. Why?
I was just coming out of my 5.5 years of college.
Not quite the Van Wilder plan, but getting there.
Wanted to stay as long as I could and keep playing.
Yeah,
just to make up of the team, the coach. I'd go to every Celtics game. I'll watch everyone or listen to it on the radio. Johnny Most.
Mm-hmm.
You know that name?
Of course.
Legendary radio broadcaster for the Boston Celtics. I would listen to the games or watch them on TV if they would come on during that time in terms of, national games. Right. Or try to find the cheapest ticket I could get on the street and go in. So to me, the 86 Celtics, that was the Lakers Celtics. It was all that stuff. It was awesome. I mean, it captured my heart, my mind. Everything I did was with the Celtics. So I know all the players from back then, before then, after then. I'm a pretty good history buff of the Boston Celtics.
You just said it's awesome. And it reminded me of City of Palms, you and I down there. St. Pat's was playing, and Dick Vitale was in attendance.
Yeah.
And Dickie V came on the air with us late. It was like 10:30 at night, and he's still there. And he comes on the air, and it looks like he's going to fall asleep. And next thing you know, we come on, we're like, oh, just joined by a special guest, Dick Vitale. And he's like, it's awesome, baby, with a capital A. Look at this kid going to Kentucky. And I'm like, oh my God, what just happened here?
I didn't even know if he was watching before.
And he knew all those kids. He knew where they were going. That was so much fun when he did that. I was like, I swear to God, I thought he was falling asleep. And next thing you know, this just happened.
Justin, just a quick point on Dick. Since I took the job at ESPN, I can't think of an analyst that we've had in the last 15 years that I've been there that has been so into recruiting as Dickie V. He wants to know who the top freshmen are, who are the top recruits coming in next year. I mean, even to this day, we'll text each other about players, whether they're freshmen as the season starts or high school kids coming up, the McDonald's game. He is so into it. And that night, that was a special night for both of us. We just shut up and let him take over.
It was amazing. Okay, how about your favorite player growing up?
Dave Cowens, Boston Celtics.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
he played.
Yeah, he played at Florida State. The way he played, the intensity level. I just loved his passion for the game and how hard he'd hustle. He hustled all the time. That iconic video of him diving on the floor for the loose ball with the Celtics. So to me, that's the guy I wanted to emulate growing up. But a close second is Larry Bird.
That's fair. He had an okay career. Favorite restaurant in Boston?
Ooh, now you're going deep on me. Saraceno's. in the North End. North End is the iconic part of Boston, the Italian district, one town over from where I grew up in East Boston, Saraceno's.
And your
5
go-to,
stars. And you know
your go-to dish at Saraceno's.
Linguine and clams.
Oh, good choice. Good choice.
Really good.
Oh, man. Okay. You kind of answered this before, but I'll come back to it. The toughest player to game plan for as an assistant?
I would say the two that I can remember, Ray Allen, Alonzo Mourning. Different players, obviously. One of the greatest shooters of all time, and the other one of the greatest big men of all time. They were really hard to game plan against because you had to have special coverages, special defense, and you just couldn't do it alone against those guys.
Yeah. Paul, I enjoyed our time so much when we called games together. I'm so happy that we're actually both living in Charlotte, North Carolina, even though we don't see each other all that much. But I can't thank you enough for coming on, doing this. I hope you had fun because I know I did, just hearing some of the stories and reliving those Big East days. Those are the glory days. And that's what I think a lot of people out there love to hear about. I know I do. And all the Rick Majerus stories, it's special.
Yeah. When I look back, Justin, I coach with some great people and coaches, and I thank them for, taking me on as an assistant, having a chance to be a head coach. But this other life, the afterlife,
yeah,
media, I mean, it has been a joy to work with people like yourself. And you and I were one of the first two to work together, especially in the high school game. But you had the talent. You could do a game, whether it's high school football, basketball back then. And then we were in the studio together. Don't forget ESPNU studio.
Yes.
Recruiting Nation.
Yes.
So you could host and you could play-by-play. And I always thought of you as one of not just the nicest guys that I've ever worked with, but one of the most talented.
Well, thank you. I truly appreciate it. And it's a reason why we're friends all these years later. We have to go do our annual lunch sometime soon because we got to catch up.
We know the spot.
Yeah, we know the spot. Well, now that my wife is actually Chinese, we might not be able to go to that place. We may have to go to an authentic Chinese place.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Right. Hey, Paul, thanks so much. Great talking to you.